What if tonight, without any warning at all, the internet simply disappeared? Not slowed down, not partially disrupted, but completely gone. No Google searches, no social media, no WhatsApp or text-based apps, no online banking, no streaming platforms, no cloud storage, no GPS updates, no emails, no remote access. And for the next 24 hours, the entire world was suddenly forced offline, cut off from the invisible digital system that quietly runs modern civilization. In the very first minutes, confusion would spread as phones displayed no internet connection. Apps refused to load, smart TVs went blank, voice assistants stopped responding, and millions of people instinctively refreshed their screens again and again, assuming it was just a temporary outage, a router problem, or a local service failure, unaware that something far larger had just occurred. Within the first hour, workplaces that rely on cloud-based systems would grind to a halt as employees lost access to shared files, servers, and internal platforms. Remote workers would be completely disconnected. Online customer support would vanish. Food delivery and ride-sharing apps would stop functioning, and countless small businesses that depend entirely on online orders and digital payments would be forced to close their doors without warning. Social media platforms would fall silent. News websites would stop updating. Live streams would abruptly end, and people would feel an unusual sense of isolation as they tried and failed to contact friends, family members, and co-workers who lived even a few miles away, revealing how deeply communication has shifted from physical interaction to digital dependency. Emergency systems that rely on internet-based coordination would struggle. Dispatch centers would face delays. Real-time data sharing between agencies would slow down, and misinformation would begin spreading offline through rumors, assumptions, and word of mouth, creating uncertainty in the absence of trusted digital sources. Hospitals would continue operating, but doctors and nurses would face serious challenges as electronic medical records became inaccessible. Scheduling systems failed. Network-connected equipment lost functionality, and staff were forced to rely on printed records, memory, and manual processes that many younger professionals had never been trained to use at scale. Airports would experience cascading failures as online booking systems stopped. Digital boarding passes became useless. Real-time flight coordination slowed. International communication between air traffic systems became limited, and passengers found themselves stranded without updates, directions, or digital proof of their travel plans. Financial systems would feel the impact almost immediately as online trading platforms froze. Stock markets paused or delayed activity. Digital transactions failed. Card payments became unreliable. ATMs stopped updating balances, and businesses were forced to operate on cash, something many people no longer carried, while global commerce slowed as companies struggled to coordinate supply chains, logistics, and payments without email, messaging apps, or cloud-based tracking tools. As hours passed, the psychological effects would become increasingly visible, with people feeling restless, anxious, and uncomfortable in the sudden silence, instinctively reaching for their phones out of habit, experiencing withdrawal-like symptoms from the constant stimulation of notifications and feeds, while others might begin to notice something unexpected: the absence of endless scrolling, the return of boredom, and the rare opportunity for uninterrupted thought. Families would talk more. Neighbors might step outside to ask questions. Radios would regain importance. printed maps would resurface, and some communities could momentarily reconnect with forms of interaction that existed before the internet dominated daily life. However, not all reactions would be calm, as frustration would grow among those whose livelihoods depended on connectivity, including freelancers, online sellers, digital creators, and service providers, who suddenly lost income, visibility, and communication, exposing how fragile economic stability can be when it relies on systems people rarely see or fully understand. Governments and internet service providers would work urgently behind the scenes to diagnose the cause of the global outage, whether it resulted from a massive technical failure, a cyber attack, damaged undersea cables, satellite disruptions, or a combination of vulnerabilities. While officials struggled to communicate accurate information to the public without the very networks they depended on to do so. In the absence of instant updates, fear and speculation could spread faster than facts, leading some people to assume the worst, while others dismissed the event as temporary, highlighting how trust and perception shape collective behavior during crises. As night fell, cities would appear quieter than usual, offices darkened earlier, entertainment options limited, and the constant digital noise that normally fills modern life replaced by an unfamiliar stillness, forcing people to confront how much of their identity, productivity, and social connection had been outsourced to online platforms. By the time the internet finally returned after 24 long hours, notifications would flood back in, inboxes would overflow, systems would reboot, financial transactions would resume, and the world would rush toward normality with a sense of relief. Yet the experience would leave behind an uncomfortable realization that a single day without internet was not merely inconvenient, but deeply disruptive, revealing how fragile global communication, economies, healthcare systems, and even personal relationships have become when everything depends on a few invisible digital networks functioning perfectly at all times, raising a question that lingers long after the screens light up again. If a brief silence can cause this much disruption, how prepared are we for a longer one? Disclaimer: this video presents a hypothetical scenario created for educational and informational purposes only, based on general technology, infrastructure knowledge, and publicly discussed risks. It does not predict real events, does not claim certainty, and is not intended to cause fear, but to encourage awareness, critical thinking, and preparedness. If this scenario made you think, let us know in the comments. How would you survive 24 hours without the internet? And if you enjoy realistic what-if scenarios like this, make sure to subscribe for more.